Good morning. There's a notion out there that marriage has lost its value, that somehow the rising divorce rates are due to the fact that women are not like our mothers used to be, that this new generation of women don't have the right values anymore, don't care as much, and that's why families are broken apart. That's why marriages don't last as long. And that could be further away from the truth. In fact, I think it's very ignorant to think that way and very shallow. And this is not ignorant in a bad way. It's just that I think people just don't know what they don't know. And that's why I wanted to talk about it. Now, I think we can admit that in the history of mankind, society was built in such a way that women dance to the tune of men. For the most part, men had all the rights and women just had to come along and had to accept life the way it was brought to them. And so when you look back and ask yourself the question and said, yes, the divorce rate was lower back then, but then did our mothers stay in marriage because they were happy, because they were fulfilled, or because there was no other option for them at the time? And the answer is that I think I've lived long enough now, and I've seen enough from generations before me to my generation after me, to know that a lot of our mothers were not happy in their marriages. They did what they had to do to keep the family going. Most of them sacrificed their own happiness, their own purpose, their own well-being even, for the marriage, for their children. And through abuse, through everything that men did, divorce was just not an option. It wasn't an option because that's just the way things were back then. But as time went on, times have changed. Before, women used to dance to the tune of men because that's how things were. But as times have changed, women have started saying, hey, we don't mind dancing to your tune to your tune, but then from time to time, we'd like to turn on our own music and also dance to what we like to dance to. And I think it's important that as men that we recognize that and recognize that that's okay. That's okay. And it's no different from, and the other thing that we have to recognize is that times are changing for everything, right? So it's not just marriage, it's not just, relationships. It's just society is changing. So for instance, 30 years ago, 50 years ago, when you had a job, you pretty much worked at that job your entire life. And very, very few people actually switch jobs in the middle of the career. These days, it's almost impossible to find someone of our generation that has had one job for the entire life. Because back then, people had less options. And so they just dealt with what they had. These days, we know better. We understand our value better. We understand what it takes to be happy better. We understand the importance of work-life balance better than they did back then. And we have more options. And so we flipped the script and we're forcing companies to earn our trust. And so companies are investing more and more money to earn our trust, and if they don't, then we'll go somewhere else. It doesn't mean that we're worse than our parents, because we're certainly not. It just means that we've evolved and we've recognized our value, and we just we're asking more of our employers. And that's all that women are doing. They're just asking more of men. And as men, rather than trying to hold women in the past, we should ask ourselves, what is it that women are asking for, and how can we improve so we can earn their stay versus trying to guilt them into staying by comparing them to a time when their situation was worse. And that's my point. And you think about it, your sisters and your daughters. Like for me, I would never tell my daughter to stay in a marriage where she's being abused. But back in the days, parents would tell their daughters to say, it's okay, you just have to deal with it. I would tell my daughter, if you're in a marriage that's not working, well, you need to get out of there because, you need to take care of yourself. So times are changing, and I think people need to accept that times are changing, and that's okay for people to evolve and expect more. And rather than try to hold people back, we should evolve too, and find ways to be better. And I'm not saying that this is the only reason why this is happening, why marriages maybe are not don't last as long as they used to, because there's a lot more to it. There's a lot more to it than just what I talked about. The main point that I'm trying to make is simply that claiming that marriages are not as successful as they used to be because of women, or because women now are worse than what they used to be, is just an unfair statement, which we shouldn't be making, because it's just not true. Ultimately, I think the problem that's causing divorce is much deeper than we think it is. And rather than blame one another, I think we should recognize that maybe we're getting married for the wrong reasons and to the wrong people. Maybe our culture, maybe society has created a definition of marriage, expectations for marriage that doesn't necessarily meet what we want, and that it's time that we challenge it, and that we take time to really understand, rather than just do what is expected of us, that we take time to understand what is it that we need, what is it that we want, and really be honest with ourselves as we approach the subject of marriage, in our selection of a partner, in our selection of, in a choice to get married or not, that we're honest with ourselves about what we really want from our partner and what we have to give, and either work on ourselves to be better people so we can attract better partners, or be honest with the people that we meet if they don't quite meet what we need, so we don't get married to the wrong person and end up having to find out down the line that the person doesn't match what we want and getting a divorce. But at the end of the day, I think it's also okay to admit that we can make mistakes, and that unlike we've been told, unlike a culture has preached, that it's okay to recognize our mistakes, and when things are not working out, that we really give it our best to try to make things work. And if our best is not enough, rather than just stay in it just to stay in it, that we can choose to walk away and try again. That a mistake in marriage is no different from a mistake in anything else, and we should not be prisoners of our choices just because we made them. So that's my stance on it, and I think that it's a subject that we need to talk more about and have more conversation around, because that's the only way that we grow and learn on the subject. So, like I said, I think marriage is wonderful, and I believe in marriage.